Hello, it's me. I'm back. Basecam this time. I'm doing it on my laptop. Ooh. So, a couple years ago, which is scary to think about. Wow, that was before I even had my friendship. I did a couple videos on Fire Emblem tier lists of Mystery of the Emblem and the original Shadow Dragon Blade of Light. So, to celebrate my grand and long-awaited return, I'm sure, I've decided that we here at the Real Life Saiyan Incorporated, we have a Doofenshmirtz jingle, but we're working out the copyright. We've decided to rank every unit in Shadow Dragon. With the exception of these goobers, I don't think I have to explain why I'm not ranking the Gaiden units. They're just too hard to fit into a conventional tier list. Technically Athena's, kinda good, but that means I'm giving up a lot of these guys, and technically one of these guys could be really good. There's just too many variables, and I feel like trying to grade them alongside the rest is just too clunky. So a couple ground rules. These are the general things I base most of my tier lists on, is an efficient Iron Man. Not like a full-on LTC, we're going to beat the whole game in 5 turns, we're going to rig everything. Just a general kind of no resetting, playing through the game, not excessively grinding, but you might take Big Gordon and give him a cheeky bit of damage to get a level here or there. And I feel like that's kind of, I was speaking in the Discord about this, it's kind of the most optimal, yet practical way of playing the game and tiering these units. Because technically, a full-on Iron Man, you could just grind out Gordon's level 20 Excelblum, and I would say trivialize the game, but we'll get to why that doesn't really work on Gordon. So in terms of difficulty, as you can gather by the subtitle here, H5 sucks ruffle, we're going to be basing this off of hard 2, hard 3. Because I feel like hard 4 and especially hard 5 just follow too many separate rules compared to because there are units who legitimately cannot do fucking anything except die on hard 5. So I figure that that's just too difficult to try and look at some of these units on, because they sort of won't get to do anything. There's a meme in Fire Emblem Awakening where it's Lunatic Plus is Frederick's S tier, Robin and Crom are A tier, everyone else fucking sucks. That's kind of how Shadow Dragon is in the hard difficulties. It's just too volatile. Hard 2, hard 3, that's kind of the level where some of these guys who may be a bit shit can still get some level of use out of them. If this was normal mode, half this game would be an S tier. This game, it can be pretty scary, but the more you kind of play around with it, the more you kind of realize, oh, just don't play like a dumbass, and you'll kind of be alright on that front. So, yeah, without any further ado, we may as well just jump into it with Marth. So first off, we have Marth. A lot of people really like to liken this guy to, just say off the top of my head, FE6 Roy, FE7 Elliewood, FE7 Lyn, arguably FE7 Hector, considering how none of the lords in that game are anything good. Despite that, I think that Marth is a solid C tier unit. He has quite a lot of utility, mainly thanks to A, the Fire Emblem, and B, the Rapier. The Fire Emblem is just good because it lets him take chests without having to deploy a thief, which is nice. And it's just a nice bit of utility. And as for the Rapier, you are only ever going to be fighting Cavaliers and Knights in this game. You may as well have a weapon that's fucking good against them, even if he's always getting weapon triangle disadvantage, because no one in this game wields fucking swords. You know, he's still doing effective damage, even if he's a little bit less accurate. Accuracy isn't really something you have to worry about in DSFE, because hit rates are fucking crazy high. It is very rare to see a regular unit encounter that isn't on terrain or anything go below 80. The hit rates are crazy in this game. So because of that, Marth, never great, but I wouldn't even call him slightly bad. He's just pretty mediocre, and there are worse things to be in this game than mediocre. We will get there when we get there. So next up we have Kain. I think he's a very solid A tier unit. He's the fucking stereotypical Christmas Cav. He's the speedy one of the two, and in this game that actually matters because enemies scale a lot more aggressively than some other games. FE7, for example, Sane's the bulkier one who's more damaging, Kent's the fast one. You never really want to bother using Kent. I mean, you should because they're both really good, but Kent definitely struggles a lot more when it comes to just keeping up with enemy threshold, because he can't do as much damage as Sane, but Sane also doubles, so why bother using Kent that much? in this game, like, you can definitely feel when Kain can, like, hit something and Abel can't. He's really good base speed. He can move the javelin at base, which is nice. It allows him to safely attack at 1-2 range. The issue is in this game, because he's usually going to be fighting axe users, his accuracy is never really going to be that good. And that can definitely, like, kind of bite him in the ass, because there have been a few times where when playing the early game, he misses the javelin and all of a sudden you have to rapidly use the ICBM. But again, we'll get there. Yeah, overall, okay, Abel. Also, permanent reclassing, I'll only be mentioning if it matters. So, some units in this game, like, you are never really going to be reclassing Abel. You're never really going to be reclassing, Merrick, for example. But, say, someone like, these fuckers, for example, we will be reclassing. Should have mentioned that in the intro, but that's the fun of the real-life saying. You just kind of watch me desperately try and hope for the best during half of these. Next up, we have Kain. He has a lower lance rank. He's the worst unit in the game. In fact, we're going to call it F tier. We're going to call it Kain tier because he's so bad. He's unusable, guys. Yeah, in case you want a really good example about how Hard 5 ridiculously makes just the balance of this game so much more volatile, Kain really isn't that bad. He's still A tier. He has the same, like, solid enough bases. He has an E rank at base when it comes to lances, so he can't indeed use the javelin at base. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, there are enough archers, and, like, there's enough low health, like, pirates that, like, Jagan will weaken, that he can quite safely get lance rank early on. It's really not as big of a deal as a lot of people really like to make it out to be. Like, yeah, he can't wield javelins for the first 3 chapters. Oh no. It's a mild annoyance you have to get through. I guess it technically counts as investment, but once you get to that point, he's just as good as Kain and Abel. You may as well just use them both. This game doesn't use promotion items like in the previous 2 games I covered. It uses Master Seals, which is universal promotion items. So because of that, it's even easier to use both of them, because it's not like you have to compete for the Knight's Crest. They're just competing for a Master Seal alongside everyone else, which just kind of takes away that competition almost. So yeah, Kain and Abel are both incredibly strong cavaliers. You should basically always be deploying them. But Kain, like, well, once we get more units up there will be a bit of a gap, because at the end of the day, he does have that investment, which can be a bit annoying. And him having slightly shakier skill and speed can be frustrating, because it means that he's just always... He can sometimes just lag behind the speed curve, which can literally half his damage compared to what Abel can do. So, like, yeah, like, he's hitting for 10, Abel's hitting for 9. Abel's hitting for 18, he's hitting for 10. And also he can take it to get crit, because crit in this game is pretty wild. Jagan is S tier, and I really don't think anyone would deny that. The main thing with Jagan is early game Shadow Dragon is fucking hard. Enemies are some of the toughest they are, and you really don't have a lot of units who can deal with it. Your units in the early game are very poor, so because of that, Jagan just being a good unit is a really nice hand. He has the Silver Lancer base, which is just really good. It's basically, as I joked earlier, it's the ICBM. Really good, actually really good damage. It's basically your failsafe. The only issue Jagan, he has 2 major issues though. One of them, his speed is low as fuck. So his damage output's always really low. Like, I don't think he can even double on, like, hard 1, let alone hard 2 and 3. So because of that, Jagan kind of struggles a bit to actually be, like, a Jagan. But, like, he's difficult setting up kills and stuff, but, like, he's the one good unit early game, really. And then once you get to Chapter 4 and you unlock reclassing, you can make him a Draco Knight and make him even better. I personally do Draco Knights because I'm going to be honest here. I don't use Draco Knights in Shadow Dragon because they're so fucking ugly. I really don't like how they look at all. So I often end up making Jagan a sniper, funnily enough, which is actually quite good. Like, it buffs his speed a lot, so he can kind of double, and he actually has decent enough bolts to the point where he can still take a hit for someone. But overall, you are better using him as a Draco Knight. I just suggest doing Sniper Jagan as it's something fun. In case you're curious, I did that because of Raquel from Tearing Saga. One of the best designed units in Tearing Saga. If you haven't played Tearing Saga, I recommend it, because it's simultaneously some of the most amazing, like, well thought out unit design, and then there's shit like Vega, where you just have to think to yourself, how is this, like, allowed? And that one fucking guy Holmes has, who just has a miracle and, like, a Phoenix. He has Phoenix mode on his, like, personal weapon. It's insane. Next up we have Gordon. I think I'm gonna D tier. He's a free deployment on some early game chapters. That's the only good thing he's going for. Chip damage is nice, but his skill is actually kind of shitty at base, so he can't actually hit very well. His speed is also exceptionally low. To the point where he gets doubled if you go to Silver Bow. The Silver Bow is the only way he's going to do any respectable damage because strength is super low. Archers are designed in a really weird way in Arcanea, where they have really low bases, kind of good growths, and a fucking sick promotion into Sniper. Sniper's one of the best classes in the game, in my opinion. But, like, Archers are so bad, it's really not that worth it. There are some times I can make Archers work in this game. I've replayed this game a fucking lot. He is not one of them. His bases are too crappy, his growths are too inconsistent, and the growths he does have are in really bad spots. Like, they're almost all in defense, and it's like defense, luck, and skill. But, like, you don't really need any of them, you're an Archer. His luck is, like, seems good, but issue is with Gordon is that, like, crit rates in this game, like, this game base has a really weird hidden support system. It's not something like the GBA games where you stand next to a unit for a while and get support conversations. It's like Path of Radiance, but without the conversations. Every time certain units are deployed together, they'll get an invisible bonus after a certain amount of thresholds. I think it's 5, 10, 15. It's really weird, and I don't know why they just didn't, like, okay, maybe not having support conversations, I get. There's a lot of units here, and a lot of them have little to no characterization. I kind of get it. But the game, I don't think, ever explains supports to you. You're just kind of meant to figure it out on your own. I don't think Gordon has a support partner. And even if he did, he'd just be too crap to justify deploying it that much. He does get early game chip damage, which is nice because, again, a lot of units just straight up can't actually, like, defeat enemies. You need to, like, free round KO a lot of them. So, like, yeah, him hitting enemies is good, but that's kind of it. In terms of long-term use, unless you get exceptionally lucky early on, you're just never really getting much out of him. Which is a shame, because I'm pretty sure I've tried using him every time I've played Shadow Dragon, in terms of like, oh, let's see if this is going to be the Gordon run, and, well, it just never is. Next up we have... Do you hear that? Guys! Potential Man! Drog... Oh, I'm sorry, you can pry Drog from my cold dead hands. Here's Doga. He is D. He's above Gordon, but, like, really not by a lot. Armor Knight is another great class to be in ever since you get from, like, hard... Not even in normal mode, it sucks. Arcanea has really big maps, so low mobility really struggles. Enemies are a lot stronger in this game, so they're going to have a lot more strength, a lot more speed, meaning that having good defense isn't really enough. And I just mean it would just be one of those things where, like, Drog, he'll just get, like, hit, like, he's getting doubled, and he's basically taking as much damage as these guys, because defense growth is really shit. So, what about reclassing? That's where the potential comes in. According to our beloved Fire Emblem community, if you reclass him into a hunter, he's kinda good. No, the fuck he isn't. He's really fast, and I'll give you that. If you reclass him into a hunter, slap a forge bow on him, you can do good. You can just do it with fucking anyone. Forging's really broken in this game, that's why I'm not talking about it. Because you can just make anyone good with just slapping a good forge on them. So, he's really frail. His growths and everywhere aside from skill and speed are crap as a hunter. So, he's either way too shit at anything as an armor knight, or like a kind of mediocre glass cannon as a hunter. But you get better glass cannons who are more reliable and also aren't made of, like, pure glass. They're made of, like, I don't know. Drog's made of, like, sugar glass. Someone like a good mage is made out of, like, double pane glass. Still glass, but, like, one of them you can maybe, like, hit a bit hard, you know? Drog doesn't even get that as a hunter. So, like, I know people love to glaze this guy. Like, there's some people who would ride or die with Drog, you know? Reclass him, he'll be really good. It's just not, really. Next up we have Sheeta. Sheeta is S tier in my eyes above Jagan, but it is actually really tough to choose between them. I could give a whole explanation on why her stats are really good for the game, why she's in Pegasus types, one of the best classes. But I don't. You guys know, it's the fucking Wing Spear. The Wing Spear is ridiculously good in Shadow Dragon. It is effective against Armor Knights and Cavalry. You know, the same things the Rapier is good against, and that single-handedly will put Marth in C tier. But wait, there's more! You see, Sheeta has a lance instead of a sword. So she's almost always at least neutral, but occasionally she'll be positive, which just buffs how strong she is. But also, you could forge the Wing Spear to get its already pretty decent might even higher. To the point where you can just meme that the best boss killer, like, I was gonna say meme, no, it's just a legitimate strategy, it's just fund all your army in like a single forged Wing Spear, and you just don't really have to worry about the rest of the game. Because Sheeta just kind of hits everything really hard. I do think Sheeta's probably the best unit in the game, but she does, of course, have some kind of issues. If she isn't using the Wing Spear, she is barely hitting for above, like, 4 damage. Her actual output is shockingly low. Her strength base is really bad, her growth is really bad, and you don't want to reclass her, because then you lose the Wing Spear, and she'll be actually kind of worthless. Like, she's a really good Wing Spear bot, she isn't really anything else, which is why I don't really feel comfortable placing... I do feel comfortable placing an S tier. But, like, I guess she is the best unit, but if you told me that you think Jagan is better, I would absolutely believe you. It is a very frustrating experience, using Sheeta, seeing she's, like, level 15, and she just doesn't have any fucking strength from base. Because it's only, like, a 30% growth, and sure, you can use, like, is it the powering in this game? I can't remember, but yeah, you can use that on her, it's fine, but, like, she's a Wing Spear bot. Really, really, really good to be, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of her only main utility. If she's fighting something that isn't a horse or a knight, she's kind of worthless. But don't get me wrong, she is fucking fantastic. I'm just saying this because I would, like... The positives are so simple, I want to go into the negatives. Positives are just Wing Spear flies, whereas the negatives are actually something worth discussing in my eyes. Next up, we have Reese. Jesus fucking Christ. Talk about availability being your sole benefit! Shadow Dragon has infamously the hardest Zelda game in the series. Enemies are ridiculously strong and your allies just cannot really compete. So having a healer is really good. The second you can undeploy him and use someone else, you are shoving him to the bottom of that bench and he is never seen the light of day again. His growths are fucking atrocious. His bases are just as bad. He doesn't even have really that good of a staff rank. He'll just get a good one because he's the only healer. But even then, it's not good. He still takes a lot of time to get to C tier, where you get the Warp Staff, which is actually impressive. So, I'll put him in C tier because he is fucking invaluable for the entire the entire early game, pre-deployment. But once you get to that point, he's just worthless. You just should bench him. His growths aren't good enough to make him anything funny as well. Like, I tried doing him with a Cavalier once, and I'll admit it was kind of funny, but it was also kind of depressing, because it didn't really do anything. So yeah, this is just availability of the character. Next up, we have Ogma, who I think is an A tier. This is really interesting, because he's kind of the inverse of Abel. He's really, really good at base, and really, really good when you get him, because he's, like, your best sword user. But then he really quickly falls off, because he's your best sword user. This game is, again, famously really lance-oriented, so he'll always kind of be facing extra damage and extra, like, he will always... Dodging for Ogma is hard, and he doesn't have a lot of fucking defense. He is a really, really frail unit. I know I'm swearing a lot. This is my workplace at hand. They are very vulgar there. So, Ogma is definitely A tier. I do not think anyone would contest me on that. But whether or not he's better than Abel is quite interesting, because he needs a little bit of investment and then it's just as good as anyone else. He is really good at base, but then he kind of struggles because he just isn't really in a game that's kind to him. I think I'm going to put him below Kane. I think being good at a really pivotal time isn't quite as important, because you still have Jagan, you still have Marth, you still have decent-ish units. But overall, he is, like, basically required for early game boss killing as well. Especially the Chapter 3 boss, who is basically just the Ogma killing edge bot, of which you will never beat him. I was doing a generic run, and I didn't have Ogma, because, you know, I was killing all my units for generics. Oh my god. you will not believe how tough it was trying to kill the Chapter 3 boss. Homer, I think it is? Goma. I don't know, I can't remember. Who gives a shit? But, yeah, killing him without Ogma is nigh impossible. So, incredible, basically mandatory early game. And I guess if he gets really good levels, you can, like, keep him around, but he's really frail, and he's really not in his environment leaving Talus. He just can't keep up with the copious amount of plants uses. So, that's why he gets A tier, but, like, the bottom of A tier. The boss, on the other hand, I think is definitely above Abel. He's definitely above Cade. I don't think he's quite above Abel, because Abel gets the Rider's Bane eventually, which is the best weapon in the game, aside from the Wing Spear, but that's personal, so it's a bit weird to talk about. Oh shit, I didn't talk about the Rider's Bane. Yeah, one of the reasons why Abel having such a good Lunge rank is so good is because you get the Rider's Bane at rank C, which, considering this game is almost entirely made up of horse users, yeah, it means that, like, Rider's Bane users kind of get that feast. You do get the Poleaxe, but that's really late by the time where it stops mattering as much. But that doesn't fucking matter, because he's hitting them for as much damage as a Rider's Bane anyways. Bast is deceptively destructive. He starts out as your fairly generic axe fighter, but he's almost always going to be doubling, at least with an Iron Axe. And his base rank, you know, D, isn't quite as good as Board, but, like, he has actual stats outside of an axe rank. So, you think of this guy, you think, okay, what's the catch? His growths? No, his growths are also some of the best in the game. Boss is just kind of the most solid a unit can be. I think him losing out on Rider's Bane utility does put him below Abel. It takes him too long to get to that point, unless you're doing the full content patch, which, considering I'm ranking these guys, we aren't. If this was full content patch, honestly, I'd probably be willing to put this guy in S tier, but that's a patch. But one of the things that does is add the Poleaxe early again. So, but Bast is still, like, exceptional. Really good base stats and everything. His HP is good enough to the point where he could be decently bulky, but, like, he doesn't need to be bulky because he's killing everything anyways. He can build the hand axe at base, which is good because, you know, he 1-2 range, and because he's an axe user, he's almost always getting advantage. Again, while not as great in this game, because hit rate is just universally really high, being able to dodge occasionally and almost always hitting with the hand axe is really nice to have. His skill can maybe be a bit better, but just use a fucking secret book. Who the hell else is gonna need one? Boss is insanely good. You could make an argument for him being an S tier, even, like, without all the other stuff, just because how single-handedly reliable he is. He has 3 amazing promotion options when you do Warrior, Berserker, and Hero. I usually go Hero, just because I think it's the coolest class of Fire Emblem. But I think Warrior has bow access, and I think Berserker has extra crit, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I know Shadow Dragon just Shadow Dragon does not like units having crit. But overall, Bast is exceptionally strong. You may as well always use him. That's kind of what A tier is. A tier is like the always use. And then we have Board. Hot take, Board is actually kind of decent. Low C tier because he's not great, but he will basically be your only hammer user early on. Bast needs a lot. I think he needs 50 or so hits with the axe to, you know, get himself to C rank, which is pretty hard to do if you're not, like, solely investing in Bast. So Board will more than likely be one of your only hammer users for Chapter 5. For Chapter 6, I believe. Yeah, Fire Emblem, which is of course an indoor map with a good few Armor Knights. You don't have a lot of other options for Armor Knights. Board does. So he can deal with those guys, and, you know, that's all good. So just that immediate utility is really nice, and a lot of people kill for that early game utility. But what else does this guy have, I hear you say? Really don't know hell what else. He has pretty good bases, especially for his joint tying. They're slightly... I can't remember off the top of my head if they're, like, parallel or slightly worse than Bast's, but they're still, like, really damn good, except for his speed. His speed is horrible. He will just never double. In fact, he's gonna get double. He's gonna get doubled a fucking lot. But, like, that doesn't matter, because, let's be honest here, by that time, you probably aren't using him. But, similar to Reese, doesn't really matter that he's just, like, not got long term, because he's really useful short term. You know, exceptionally good combat base for the early game. He'll probably fall off, but hey, you can still use him if you really want to. He has good enough bases that those mediocre growths can kind of keep him going on some of the lower hard difficulties. I say lower hard difficulties, I'm talking about like hard 2 and 3 here, but it's just because 4 and 5 scale so much. So, again, really bad speed growth and not the best growth in general, but he's just, early game utility is just really nice to have. And by the time that, you know, Bars gets to the point where you can use him, you can just trade the hammer over, and this guy can safely retire to your bench. Or if you're a heartless bastard, you can kill him for a fucking sword woman. Next up we have Cord, who Cord is really tough to talk about. He's one of the few units in this game with actually good growths. I don't mean like good growths. People talk about Arcanair a lot as if like this is Fire Emblem Gaiden, but everyone has like +2 strength. No, this is not that. Arcanair units generally have mediocre, it's like FE6 level stuff. They're never amazing, but they're good enough. Cord does have like unabashedly like, really good growths. Issue is that he's going to struggle to get them. E-rank axes means he can't wield the hand axe at base, which completely kills his early game. If he could wield the hand axe at base, like Ross, for example, from FE8, I'd be willing to put him in like a pretty good B tier, you know? He could easily do some early game shit, get himself some experience, and then just completely own your army. My mouse just disconnected and put him into A tier. I think my mouse likes Cord, I mean. Overall, I think that this guy's C tier, I think above board, but yeah, I think above board. I think him having really good prospects long term is really nice, but unfortunately, he's kind of the opposite of board. Funnily enough, board really good early game, but just doesn't really do anything after that. He has an atrocious early game, but then has a really good like mid to late game. So overall, they're kind of on the opposite end. I just put Cord a bit higher because I think he does more compared to Board, who early game hammer is nice, but there are ways to work around it. Next up we have Castor. Castor fucking sucks. I think he's probably better than Droog, but the main thing with Castor is they nerfed his fucking growth so bad. He used to have a 70% speed growth, no, a 70% attack growth in Mystery of the Emblem, which was insane. He kind of just was an ICBN. He just kind of shot at someone and they died. It was really, really good. Yeah, he had some issues in Mystery of the Emblem, like having to dismount, but like, so what? That made him really strong. In this game, however, Castor just kind of loses that ability. All of his growths are like 40%, which means that like it's very likely he would just get like a blank level, and like a lot of blank levels. And his bases are not good enough to make up for that. He still has quite low bases. He's like a level 3 hunter. He is not at the level where his bases can carry him. So overall, Castor, I really can't say in all fairness is that good. Really low bases, really low growth, doesn't want to reclass into anything. Yeah, not really anything good for this guy. That could be worse. Daros recruits himself and then gets impaled. That's what he does best. Daros, okay, now you know what? Daros gets E tier. E tier is basically like you can maybe do something. E tier is like the very, very, very bottom of viability. And Daros, at the very least, is a free deploy on a couple chapters. And like those chapters, you might want to have him on because they can be some of the scarier ones. But that's if he survives. He probably won't. Daros' main issue is he gets weighed down a lot by his steel axe, and he has really bad base speed and really bad base skill. So he'll never hit anything, and he'll always get double. If you really want to use Daros, you maybe could ring him for something, but it's so hard just keeping him alive because he recruits himself in enemy phase, which is really rare and also really dangerous because he'll just be surrounded by a bunch of pirates who see this incredibly easy to kill opponent. They will gang up on him, he'll probably die. I don't feel quite confident saying he's like an F tier unit because free deployment is just really nice to have. And he's a free steel axe. That is the level we're at when a free steel axe is an unironic upside because there is so little else to you. And he is a stunning D rank, so he can also wield the hand axe. But yeah, aside from that, he's fucking worthless. He is really difficult to actually keep alive. Julian is a thief. Those go C tier. I think Julian goes here. I think people will say, oh, Marth, you know, he has a chest. If he has a chest, you know, you can just use Marth to open it. But Marth also wants to be, like, going to villages, and he wants to be doing other stuff as well. He doesn't just want to be sitting there running around after people. He wants to use the rapier on things, and, you know, he might just want to... You know, he's not amazing, don't get me wrong, but, like, he's a real unit. You might want to see him in some actual combat. So Julian can just save time. He can run to the other side of the map and get chests. Not a great use, but, you know, it's a really handy use. You'll be happy when you have Julian. In terms of stats, they don't matter, but they're actually deceptively really good. Feet and Arcanair are fucking fast. So, you can at least maybe use Julian for, like, oh man, this Cavalier is really low, and I don't want to use, like, another unit to, like, kill him. I could probably use Julian. His skill and speed are good enough to, like, kill. Again, not great, but, like, just the utility of him is really nice to have. He probably won't see combat, but if he does, he can contribute just enough to the point where I feel safe calling him a C-tier unit. Above, you know what, I think above board, I think. His chest is more useful than early hammer. Lena is one of the best units in the game. Warp at base. Next. Honestly, I didn't really say anything else on that. Her growths aren't great, but they're good enough. Base stats don't really matter, because she can use the warp at base. That's really... I wish I could say more. Warp in this game is so fucking necessary, because there's a lot of maps that are really bullshit. So being able to just warp a boss killer in, and then just warp Marth in, is really, really nice to have. And it's why being able to use warp at base is the best thing a unit can have in this game. It single-handedly makes some units just incredibly viable. Like, there's one guy later on who is pretty terrible, but he's a C rank at base, so he's automatically in, like, the top upper echelons of the tier list. But Lena... one thing I will say is that if you want to reclass her into a Sage upon promotion, that's actually a pretty decent idea. She'll usually hold on to her A rank at staves by that point, because you'll just be gearing her from level 3 to level 10. So if you have a spare Master Seal, you may as well use her as a powerful mage. Not like an amazing mage, but, you know, hitting res in a game where no one has any is nice. But, yeah, in the end of the day, she's a warp staff bot. There's not much more needed than that. Navarre. Yeah. You know how I said Ogma really doesn't like all the lances he faces, but at least he's useful in his joint chapter? Imagine that, but get rid of a lot of the joint chapter use. And also just make him worse in general. High speed, really nice! But he's kind of carried by being a Myrmidon, so you can just reclass someone into being a Myrmidon. Okay, well, what about, you know, oh, he has nothing else going for him? His strength is fucking bad. His bulk is really, really bad. He will not be able to take a lot of hits, so he kind of has to dodge tank, but again, hit rates are really high, so he can't really dodge tank. He's always getting weapon triangle disadvantage, so he's going to take more damage, and it's going to be harder for him to dodge tank. C rank is at base is good, but Ogma has it as well. So, like, he really doesn't do anything. He can be a decent Cavalier. Cavar is kind of a meme, but, like, you get more than enough decent Cavaliers. And more importantly, do you really want to bother with that? Yeah, he's a niche of being a Cavalier with, you know, good sword rank, but he has to start at E rank classes. And by that point, like, that's going to matter a hell of a lot more. So overall, Navarre is kind of doesn't want to be in his base class, but also really, really doesn't want to reclass, because then he loses a lot of what makes him good. So it's pretty depressing to say this about a unit who, my first run, was, like, really fun to use, but, like, I was using safe states, and I was doing all that shit. In an efficient Iron Man run, he's kind of not great. I think I think below Drog, because at least when you reclass him, he can hit 2 range, so he doesn't have to put himself at risk. He does what Drog does, you know, hitting admittedly kind of decently with crits, but that's another thing too, he's also very crit dependent because his base strength is so bad. Being crit dependent is very, very bad because it's inherently unreliable. So overall, Navarre, I'm sure there are a lot of people who like Navarre, and I like Navarre, I think he's a cool character, but, like, he's not very good. He just struggles too much to really do much of anything. But I'll admit, funny enough, one thing I'm noticing, he is one of very few units who faces to the left. That's kinda neat. Ugh. Merrick. You know, if this was like a personal tier list, I'm gonna be real, I put this guy in F tier. He's let me down so many times. Merrick is a really good example. We'll get to, like, the example, but he's a good example of what I'd like to call system mechanic, but sure. It happened a lot in Shadow Dragon, and a fucking hell of a lot in FE12, where units were transferred over, and not too much thought was given as to how that actually affected the unit. And Merrick is the primo example of that. Excalibur is still as good as ever, but almost every other mage can use it at base except for Linde. Okay, well that's not great, but you know, maybe there's something else going for him. Like, oh, that in FE3, he could double everything. That was what made Excalibur so good. He either crit you in one shot, or he killed you in 2 shots of Excalibur anyway. No, not in this game. Not in this game at all. Yeah, in this game, he really does not have as good... His speed takes a massive hit. His growths are weirdly shit. He has decent-ish growths in skill and, like, speed, but they're not really good enough to make up for the fact that his bases are pretty low, because he was balanced around being your mage, and balanced around Excalibur being really, really good. But now that we're in an age where you can just reclass anyone into being a mage, you know, and Excalibur's no longer personal to him, and speed is just a lot more valuable in this game than FE1 and 3. Yeah, no, Merrick really can't do a hell of a lot. He can hit you for decent damage with Excalibur, but he probably won't double. He kind of needs a crit to kill, and as I said with Navarre, you don't want to rely on crits. That being said, he's a lot better at Navarre because he's still doing a shitload of damage. He's just kind of hitting you once really strong, compared to like some of these other guys who can hit you like twice if you're really strong. With investment, Merrick could be really good, but like he is really frail and he really can struggle to kill things. Like you kind of need to rely on his crit chance for him to be like that good, and unfortunately I'm not about that crit life. I'm not a gambler. So overall, Merrick B tier. Early game mage is good, being able to hit on res is really good, but he just and good starting turn rank is good, but aside from that, he just struggles a bit when it comes to how his stats weren't adjusted for FE11. Not to FE12 standards. This is FE12. We could talk about that for the entire game. Next up, we have Mathis. E tier above Darius. Mathis' main issue is that he's just a generic Cavalier. Just straight up a generic Cavalier. I think he's a generic Cavalier, except for I think he has +2 luck, and a merely pretty decent like HP growth. It's like +70 or 80. It's really high. So on the lower difficulties, he can be really good because enemies don't do fucking any damage on normal mode. So Mathis can kind of just become a massive HP sponge. But this isn't normal mode. This is hard 2 or hard 3, and yeah, Mathis just... You'd be better off getting a generic unit because they'd probably be scaled up a bit. There's just no real reason to use Mathis. Unless you really... You can use the Javelin at base, you know, D-rank base Lancers, but... Fucking so what? Half of these other guys we're about to talk to can do that, and they're arguably better. Mathis' best use is... Yeah, no, he didn't really have one, yeah. If you really want to invest in him, he does have enough HP to make him kind of bulky, but he doesn't have any defense, so he's still not that bulky. He's kind of like a fighter in that sense, but I don't know, he's just not the kind of unit who can really contribute anything. He's available early enough to the point where I don't feel comfortable putting him in F tier, but like, he's really riding that goddamn line. Next up we have Harden, who's another A tier. Harden is just incredibly solid all around. You know what, I think this guy goes in between... You know what, yeah, I think he goes to that point. For all intents and purposes, he's able 4 chapters later, with 4 levels worth of experience, you know? Jagan-ish level bases, which is pretty depressing. It shows how bad Jagan's bases are. Really good enough growths. They're not, like, amazing, but they're consistent enough to the point where you can safely use him and he'll, like, grow. He won't just stagnate like Jagan would. So overall, there's really not, like, something I can say is, like, a bad thing about Harden. He has everything you kind of want in a unit. Good enough bases, really good bases, good enough growths, and he's pretty much on a fast track to using the Rider's Bane. The one thing I will say is his bulk isn't great. Maybe this is just me, but I swear to God I always get Harden overextended. Maybe that's just me being skill issue, but it's happened so consistently with this one unit that I think maybe it's just me being a dumbass, I don't know. Similar things happened to Ogma, he never survives because he was overestimating his bulk. How the fuck do I talk about these guys? I think Sedga goes in S tier, and Wolf goes in S tier, Sega goes in A, I think. Above, you know what, I think about there is actually pretty alright for him. So these guys are pre-promotes with fucking horrible bases, but really, really, really good growths. Famously, Wolf is one of the only units in the series who can get a growth over 200%, meaning that he can potentially get plus 3 HP as a general. He is one of the only units to ever have that, which is really good, because he kind of gets to run away with things. The most infamous strategy in Hard 5, which we're not talking about this Hard 2, but arguably even better there, is General Wolf just train him on like some shitty enemies who aren't doing a lot of damage to him, because there's a lot of choke points in this game. Then boom, you have an insanely overpowered general who won't take damage from anything, and the damage he does take will be so minimal compared to his beefy fucking HP bar, it doesn't matter to him. So, they're basically very similar units, which is why I'm just talking about it at the same time. The reason why there's a pretty significant gap between them is Wolf has marginally better bases, which is really nice for making him a general, because the main thing is that when he has, when you reclass him into a general, Sedga's always going to be taking a little bit of chip damage, and that can add up, because they're really slow as generals. Meanwhile, Wolf, he will usually just be over the threshold to take no damage. And what that threshold does a world of difference, because it means Sedga will often have to take vulneraries, or he'll often have to have a healer, heal him, which you don't want to do, because he's usually going to be fist deep in a bunch of enemies. So he's kind of in a bit of an awkward situation, and trying to train him could be quite awkward. Also, never train both these guys. Never do it at the same time. If you want to use one, just use Wolf. He's prettier anyways. But they're both, fantastic. They are really good if you actually put that investment into them. And that's what makes them so good, because, yes, they need a lot of investment, even in, an Iron Man context, that can't be great. But, what you get from that investment isn't just a unit with good bases. It's a unit with insane, game-breaking level strength, who will just never die. I had a run where I had Wolf, and I just fed him all my talismans, and he just didn't die. Because he had, enough res to the point where it didn't matter that he was taking significant damage, he was taking enough to not die. And that just kind of meant he got to run away and just javelin everything to death. It's a lot of fun. And then you can reclass these guys as a hero or a warrior or something afterwards. So yeah, overall, they're both pretty similar units, but Wolf having that slight better bases means that you can cross a couple thresholds that are really nice that Sega can't. Next up, fuck me. Rocher is bad, 5 plus. The main thing these guys have going for them is just complete nothing stats. Their base stats are horrid, and their growths are even worse. Rocher has just enough competency at base to not be an F tier, but 10% speed growth for a Cavalier is diabolical. If he had like a 30% speed growth, or even something good, he'd be like a B tier unit, you know? Decent-ish bases, decent-ish growth, to the point where he can genuinely contribute. Not great, but, you know, he's one of those parts of the Rider's Bane. He could maybe keep up a bit if you just need to give him a lot of investment. But his 10% speed growth actually shoots him in the foot. Violent, on the other hand, is just actually worthless. I think he literally just has generic Cavalier stats. So you may as well just kill him and replace him with a generic Cavalier. His growths are also nothing better. They're all like 30%. He's like Castor. They're all just really low, and they're all really mediocre. So like, Violent isn't doing shit. The fuck's he gonna do? He's just gonna go in there, then die. Which he does, by the way. He comes with a Steel Lance that will get him doubled. He gets doubled on fucking normal mode with his base inventory. Do you know how fucking bad you have to be for that to be the case? It kind of means that Violent is, worthless. I don't have a better word for it. He is really, really bad. I think that at the very least, he is technically a free deploy at his join map, but he's so bad that his best use is being a meat shield, which is really bad. He can keep the units you actually care about alive, Harden, Wolf, and Sedgar, and that's it. Even if you're playing that map safely, that doesn't even matter. So, like, he's just completely and utterly worthless. All of his growths are too low to do anything, his base level's too low to do anything, his stats are too low to do anything. He has D-rank lances, so he's quicker to the right as Bane and Kane, but, like, so fucking what? Yeah, maybe you could use him to the right as Bane. Good luck surviving him to that point. He's complete garbage. Not even worth a second look. He is worth a second look. Wendell is insane. First of all, Wendell can use Excalibur at base, which is like my favorite thing because it just makes Merrick even more worthless. Like, I know Merrick is objectively good, but I like shitting on him too much. But the main thing is going from is a really good base stat rank and base staff rank, which means that, you know, he's very fast on his way to equip, you know, Warp. I think it's if you reclass him from a Sage into a Bishop. I don't know why he's a Sage, by the way, that's really weird. I think he's like 10 uses away from Warp, which is really good. So he's a pre-promote as well, which means I can get his decent bases, including his speed. For whatever reason, Wendell is just always on fucking methamphetamines, because he is absurdly fast. I think he's like straight up one of the fastest units in the game at base, which is stupid, but I love it. Why is this old man this fast? Which means that, like, he's also like a really good combat unit as well, because funnily enough, he can double the Pegasus Knights that Merrick can't. So the flyer damage of Excalibur is way more useful on Wendell than Merrick. So, let's get this straight. He's faster than Merrick, has equally as good a turn rank. No, he's a better turn rank. And, oh yeah, he also can use staffs at base. Why is this guy, why would you ever not want to use this guy? Oh, his growths are bad. Not really. Like, they are still low as fuck, but, like, they're pre-promote growths. They're not going to be great, but you know they're not going to be great. That's the point of them. They are not designed to be great. But they're enough to the point where he can generally stay in the fight. But the point where they start falling off, he's full-on healer anyways. Like, he's just going to be the staff guy. Ricard is D tier and the very bottom of it. His utility is nice. His stats are worse than Julian's. So, like, he can't even give that little bit of contribution Julian can. And if you don't want to spend a bunch of time slogging Marth around the end of the map, you're also going to want to recruit him with Julian. So, yeah, why? That's all I can say, really. Why bother using Ricard? It's like, for, like, you specifically like Ricard. But even then, does anyone? Next up, we have good old Bantu, who, yeah, oof. He is designed around normal mode and normal mode only. My throat's going dry because I've been talking for so long. Bantu just, has a really bad bases. I wish I could say something more interesting than that, but there isn't, because he's not a very interesting unit. Which is saying he's a Manakee. He was the first Manakee in the series. But his bases and his dragon bases don't really contribute a lot, and on the harder difficulties, he just gets doubled and died. I wish there was something more interesting I could say, but there really isn't. Bantu, the only reason he's at E tier is because killing Tiki is the only real consistent way of beating Medius, and he's how you get Tiki. So he has an insane utility in that front, but that's it. Like, he's really bad. At the very least, he is bulk decent enough to the point where he can maybe act as a bit of a meat shield for a turn or two. Caesar is the worst viable unit in the game. No, I think that's Darius. I think Darius dies too easily. But, like, Caesar's best thing is going for him is he has really good base speed. So he can usually double some of the enemies on his joint chapter at base. That's it, really. He doesn't do much more than that. But it means that you can potentially use him for, like, some kills here. Yeah, he'll be doing, like, 2 damage with a steel sword, but, like, that's 4 damage. And he's fighting a lot of archers in his joint map, so chances are he'll be decent for that. Again, I don't feel safe calling him, like, good to an extent, but mainly because he's just Ogma, but worse, and joins later, and has none of the early game utility. But, like, he isn't the worst. That's probably this dweebus. Radd is a Myrmidon who's weaker than Navarre, needs more investment than Navarre, in a game where you really don't want to be a Myrmidon. That's simple, really. A lot of sword units hate using swords in this game. He's a sword unit who hates being a sword unit and hates being in this game, because he has really low bases and really can't do a lot of anything with them. And you see in FE3, he was a growth unit. In FE1 and 3, he was a growth unit. He was one of the first... he is like the first growth unit you get, really. You know, really weak at base, but really good growths. So, yeah, we got rid of his growths. So they got rid of his growths. They're nowhere near as good as they once were. They got rid of his, like, what little bulk he had. And they got rid of what little utility he had. Because he also is, like, further away from being able to use good swords. Because he has, like, a D rank. So he can use a steel sword. Whoop-de-fucking-do. This guy sucks. Because he used to be like one weapon level off of using the killing edge, and he joined with like he has like an 80% weapon level growth. So he can use the killing edge basically he can effectively use the killing edge whenever. So he loses out on the killing edge, he loses out on basically any kind of worthwhile investment he has. He's worthless. He's hot fucking garbage. And he's joined at level 1 as well, so he's even further off of promoting. Next up we have Roger. Roger is, he's just Drog 2. I think him having slightly better bases because he joins later means that, like, he's a little bit less frail than Drog, but you can also use Drog earlier. More importantly, you shouldn't because they're all fucking terrible. I've used Mercenary Roger a couple times. I'll admit, it was a lot of fun. Wasn't particularly, like, effective, though. But, you know, it's a fun. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. But in terms of, like, efficiency and, like, Iron Man potential and anything to do with that, yeah, no. Don't bother. Don't bother with Roger. It's not worth the time. Hello, we had a brief intermission because unfortunately one downside of using a laptop is that it never has any fucking charge. Anyhow, we're back in the swing of things with George. Yeah, beats here, honestly. Pre-promote, one of the earlier pre-promotes you get, which is always very nice. He's a strength-based pre-promote as well, unlike Wendell, so, you know, he can actually kind of be reclassed. But, like, what the fuck are you reclassing George? He's a sniper through and through. He has sniper stats, he has a really respectable B rank. He's very close to getting A rank as well. As long as you use George, he'll get promotion. No, he'll get A rank bows, meaning that he can easily wield a Pathia. He's still not great, but I mean, at the end of the day, being a sniper, like being a pre-promote filler is already decent. And like, hey, you may as well use one who's actually got kind of good stats. Yeah, good stats. His growth rates, fine. They're pre-promote growth rates. They're not really anything special, but as long as you use them consistently, you can probably take him to endgame. He's probably your best sniper in the game. He's the best sniper. Probably the best archer as well, but I don't know, maybe you can make an argument a trained wolf or the Bast maybe, but just raw sniper is easily George, not even close. Maria! Pretty sure I made that joke every single time. Yeah, you know what? Look, above these guys, because being a Starfleet, her stats aren't too relevant, but she struggles a lot with the existence of reclassing. As it turns out, when anyone can be a curate, being a curate doesn't really mean a lot. You can quite easily just reclass any other unit who's underperforming off the bench into a curate if you need one, so Maria being a really underwhelming one doesn't really mean anything. She's a free slot, she's a free one, she has like a weird D plus 10. It's really strange. She's like one of the only characters in the game who doesn't come with a flat rank. She's a little bit of bonus. I think it's only her and George. So I'm guessing that intelligence systems are just specifically trying that out with these two units and then dropped it. So Maria just doesn't really contribute a whole lot, but she's not like any lower than this because at the end of the day, she's a staffer. Her stats don't matter too much. You just may like she couldn't be any worse, she couldn't be any better. That's kind of, it's awkward. She's just really weird to talk about. She's a staffer. Staffers are always kind of weird to talk about in these kind of videos. Minerva, on the other hand, is a very solid B tier. I think the top of B tier. The main thing that she struggles with is she's one of the more prominent examples of promoted units, of pre-promoted units not having adjusted stats. In the original versions of FE1 and FE3, all stats capped at 20 except for HP. Everything's capped at 20. Therefore, a unit having, say, 8 strength really isn't that bad because, you know, that's basically half. In Shadow Dragon, stats all cap out around 30-ish. So having lower stats hurts a lot more. Because Minerva is fucking stupidly broken in FE1 and just about balanced enough in FE3. In this game, her really low strength and her pretty palpable speed really hurt her quite a bit. That being said, she's still a fucking pre-promoted flyer, so she's kind of impossible to be bad. She has Axe rank, which is really nice because, you know, Lance dominated. She just gets to dominate them harder. She can be a really good poleaxe user. Admittedly, she does struggle a lot because the next chapter has a good few ballista after she joins, and she isn't left with too much to do. But at the end of the day, she's just a very capable, strong pre-promote. She comes with the Horteclair, which, well, you may be able to trade to Bast, or maybe Board and Cord, or heaven forbid Darius. Chances are she'll probably still be the only Horteclair user, and she does a fantastic job at it. She has decent-ish enough growth rates to the point where if you use Minerva enough, she can safely be taken to endgame, and her bases are good enough. She just lacks a bit of that, like, real oomph to make her incredible, but don't get me wrong, Minerva is still fucking phenomenal for a BT unit. I say words, I don't always know what they mean, but, you know, good enough base stats. Being a Horteclair is really strong in this game. You can't really go wrong with Minerva, but she doesn't really have that insane, like, must-deploy energy as a lot of these upper echelon units. Lind is B tier, and I really don't know whether or not she's above or below George. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what the hell are you on about, Dorothy? It's actually quite simple, you see. Linde is basically a growth unit in a game where no one has res. So her being a, you know, fairly weak mage isn't as bad because she's still going to be hitting for a shit ton of damage. She also has aura, which is something, because you don't get any other female mages, so for all intents and purposes, aura's locked to her, unless you really want to train, like, Lena, or you're following old-ass GameFAQs guys, and, you know, Sheeta, yeah, you want to go with Mage Sheeta, because that's the meta. That was a real thing GameFAQs went through. That place is the funniest place on earth for Fire Emblem advice. Don't use Jacob, he steals XP, use fucking Radd. I mean, Lind, being a growth unit isn't as bad for her, because compared to someone like Caesar, who's pretty shitty at base, because he's hitting defense, she's always kind of going to be hitting quite strong, and aura especially helps with that. It's more the fact that, unlike Merrick, she has an actual magic growth, meaning that you pack some fucking punch, which is really nice to have. Especially on some of the harder difficulties where, again, like, enemies just get really tanky. Being able to hit res and do a lot of damage is really nice. She does have some issues. Funny enough, I found her speed isn't as good as you'd think, even though she's like a small female mage that just seems to imply she to be speedy. She, funny enough, actually kind of struggles with speed a lot, though part of it might be that Starlight's heavy as shit. But overall, like, she's not the greatest mage. She needs quite a lot of investment, but, like, compared to a lot of other growth units, she's able to contribute a lot more at base, solely thanks to being able to aura bomb, which in 2025 is such a fun term. Like, yeah, she's aura bombing on the enemies. She's Piccolo. She appears, she throws off her turban, throws aura, and then dies. So yeah, I don't feel comfortable placing it any higher, but aura bomb is just really nice to have, especially in Shadow Dragon, because there's so many Armor Knights around. Being able to just hit Armor Knights for a lot of damage than even some of your good units can is nice. And that investment can actually genuinely pay off to something, because that's the thing when it comes to growth units, is a lot of growth units struggle to actually do anything. Like, yeah, they'll have these really, really good stats that are way better than anyone else, but then what do they do with them? you're just kind of statistically better than some other units might be. You know, like, oh wow, if you train up Amelia fully in the Tower of Olney, she'll be better than Seth. Or I can just use Seth from the get-go. Like, it's fun to use growth units, but they often don't really do anything special. Lind being such, like, an offensive powerhouse is something special, because even other mages struggle to reach her sheer, like, offensive capability, which is why I think she's low B tier, but she's still B tier. Next up, we have Jake. While we're here, I'm just gonna do back at the same time. They're the same unit, and they're both insane. Ballista in this game are really fun, because unlike, say, the GBA games, where there's fixed map locations, they are classes. It is just as stupidly broken as you think. They struggle a bit with their accuracy and actually finding weapons for them. I don't think you can buy a single Ballista weapon, you have to get them for enemy drops. But aside from that, they're both really fantastic and can do some really game-breaking stuff. I think out of both of them, I think Beck is better. I'm just going to move these guys above Wolf, because I think Wolf's sheer investment means that he's this weird in-between of A and S. Beck is just better because he joins with Thunderbolt, which does effective damage against ballisticians, which, considering he joins on a map that is full of ballisticians, I don't think I have to explain much. I'm just grouping them both together because they are virtually the same unit. Their stats are both really low, their growths are really low, and they both do the same exact fucking thing. Overall, it's hard to kind of talk about them because they're just Ballistica bots, and Ballistica is just really powerful because it turns out being able to attack in longer range than any of these maps were originally designed for is really fucking powerful. So yeah, Jake and Beck are both really good. I'd say Jake is better because he has a much safer recruitment. Recruiting Jake's a pain in the ass because he has an arrow spate, and you recruit Rashida, who's a Pegasus Knight. So you really have to be a bit risky with Jake, and if it comes down to it, I'd much rather keep Cedar alive, but even then, just reclass to a paladin, you've probably got it promoted by this point anyways. So yeah, these two are both really good. I'm just talking about them both at the same time. They're virtually the same. And then when we enter the palace proper, we get the shittiest scrub squad known to man. Medea is B tier. I think above Linde, but like that's kind of it. Medea's base is slightly better than Jake at base, but she is like deceptively decent growths. They aren't like fantastic. She's not gonna blow you away. It's not like Wolf or Sedgar, but like, you know, she's not bad. She can actually like put in some work at base and actually see results, unlike some other pre-promotes, which is nice because she just kind of needed. Her speed is not great, and her bulk is not great, but she just come like kind of just before like the midway point, so there's still like enough chapters for her to kind of grow, which is really fun to say for a pre-promote. But even if you don't want to keep her as a paladin, you can keep her you can reclass her into a sniper, and she's actually a really good sniper, arguably just as good as George, because really good strength, really good skill, really good speed. You know, her bulk will still be bad, but she's a sniper, doesn't have to worry about bulk. And again, this game has a lot of flyers, and also just enemies are very tough, so chip damage is much more appreciated. So Sniper Medea is actually a genuinely quite good idea for her, and if you want to keep her as a paladin, C rank lances, that means my fucking Rider's Bane at base, baby. I don't think she's quite like anything special, and this was probably personal bias because she is my favorite Arcanea character. She's one of like 5 Arcanea characters with like an actual deep personality, so I kind of can't help it. But what can I say? I think she's just a very enjoyable character. You know, she's a very good sniper. She's a pretty decent paladin with good Rider's Bane access. You can't really go wrong with Medea. And eventually, in an Iron Man context, she's fantastic. I've had many Iron Mans where she just becomes a cool part of the team by the end just because she's just a strong, solid pre-promote. Next up we have the fucking shitters. Okay. I'm vaguely exaggerating a bit, but Dolph is pretty bad. I'm gonna give him very bottom of D because, okay, so Dolph, pretty bad, but he has decent enough defense. To the point where on the middling hard difficulties, he can take a hit or two. Not a lot, but it's something. I'm not even joking when I said that the ability to do that is better than some of these guys do. He can take a decent hit or two. He actually does have a C rank base, which means he can use the Rider's Bane. Which, okay, as soon as I said that, unironically, that puts him kind of at the top here. Because at the very least, immediate Rider's Bane utility is actually kind of good. Because again, this game is so full of fucking Cavaliers that being able to just immediately do really good damage to them is great. So while Dolph isn't going to be fantastic, immediate Rider's Bane, that's what he kind of gets. McKellen, on the other hand, is never F tier. He is really bad. Exceptionally poor base, exceptionally poor growths. He's a fucking Armor Knight, which says all you need to know. So he's in a really bad class set. He doesn't really have anything he wants to reclass into, outside of just the generic make him a hunter, so he's kind of fast. But he isn't even fast. At least Roger and Drog are actually kind of fast when you reclass them. His stats are so shit, he doesn't even get bad. He's kind of worthless. I think Radd is probably worse, because at least he has the decency to, like, have lances, so you can, like, make him a Rider's Bane user if you really, really want him to. And he's level 3 instead of level 1. That's a level of, like, bad we're at here, guys. Oh, man, McKellen's really bad. I've never even used him for fun, because he's not even fun. He's just bad. Okay, next up is Tamaz, and Christ, what did they do to you, my man? I think there I'm happy with. So, history lesson. FE1, he was kind of good. FE3, I think he was unironically really fucking great. Because in those games, you had a couple things that were different. For one, general lower stats mean that more units were better. Being an archer was kind of nice in those games because accuracy on javelins was a lot worse, and especially in FE3, you just didn't have cavaliers indoors. Therefore, snipers were really appreciated. He was 2 levels away from promotion on a map full of reinforcements, and bear in mind, he also came with a map of the Orion's Bolt. And considering his only competition for that in FE3 was Castor and Gordon, who weren't particularly that great, yeah, no, Tamaz was genuinely pretty good. But, you know, the times, they have not been kind to young Tamaz. Much higher stats, I mean, his, like, slightly below average stats are a lot more negative here. And the biggest one, by far the biggest one, Master Seals. He no longer joins with the bow promotion item, which was, like, basically just his, because who the fuck else really wanted it? Except for Castor if you trained him in FE3. Now everyone wants one. So, I believe that by the time you get to this chapter, there has been a single other Knight's Crest that you've probably used on Sheeta, let's be honest. So, let's see who wants one. Lena would really want one for some offensive capabilities. Let's see here. Abel, Harden, oh, they really want one. You know, Paladin, you know, being able to boost that long strike confirms they'll be able to use Divider's Bane. And it will also give them a much needed bulk bonus. Oh, man, Bast, how could I forget? Bast, of course he's going to want one. You know, if you give Bast one, that makes he be a hero. He gets to use the skill and speed that thing gives him, and he's basically unkillable. Oh, man, Merrick, you know, Merrick, if you've been using him enough at this point, he can then use staves. Or you can promote him, because, I mean, he's got a decent joining level. Yeah, no, you really don't want to be using Tamaz in Shadow Dragon. The reason why I'm giving him D is because this is in the context of an Iron Man, and having decent-ish stats and a admittedly pretty decent join level means that you can be Iron Man filler, which I've used him for on a good few occasions, because I have a soft spot for this Dweebus, but, like, in terms of being a good unit, he is not, and it makes me really sad, because this has then made people go back to his FE1 and Free Fire and be like, wow, that kind of mid. No, he was good. He was really, really good, actually, in FE3, because Sniper was amazing to be in. But now he's just put in a game that he really doesn't want to be in. You can use Cavaliers inside, so you can just javelin everything, so 2 range isn't as appreciated. You can just promote someone else. You can just promote someone else and make them a sniper if you really want to. He just doesn't really have that same niche that he once had. He's now just a shitty archer. But hey, he comes with a decent joining level. Oh yeah, the Parfia! Another thing that made him really good was that he was 2 weapon levels away from being able to use the Parfia. And he had a really good weapon level growth. I think it was 50 or 60. So you could either use the manual you've got on this map on him, because no one else really wanted it, or you could just train him a little bit, which you'd be doing anyway to promote him, and he'd be able to use Parfia. Now he joined with a C rank, so he's never going to use the Parfia unless you really want him to. So once again, Tamaz is just needlessly hurt by the shitty... no, it's not shitty, I prefer the reclass system. Some people complain about the reclass system in this game destroying unit identity, but I think it's just funny as fuck to mess around with, so I really don't mind. Yeah, Tomas, I think he's better than these guys, because, you know, Radd, second thief, you already have 1.5. Gordon is just dead weights for so long. Navarre is so reliant on crits that you can just give to someone else and they'll be better as him. But Tomas, like, at least has a decent join level, and, like, can kind of do something if you invest into him, but, like, no, he's really nothing great. Bo, on the other hand, is, yeah, he's pretty good. I think above Ogma, I think above Sedgar as well. I could talk about the other things about him, but I don't need to. He has warp at base. That's just all you need to know about him. As it turns out, being able to use warp at base is just inherently really, really good. He's only higher than this because, like, ultimately you want units to actually warp to them. And there are 2 others by this point who really should still be alive and should play like a dipshit. But he can open up a couple unique strategies. He can just generally be a good part of any team. He's good in Iron Mans as well if someone dies, but for the most part, he's just kind of whatever, Boa. He's a warp bot. He's a warp bot. Astrum! Yikes, brother. I think C tier. Main thing that he has going for him is he's another swordy in a game you don't want to be a swordy. He's a pre-promote, which is pretty decent, but again, he's a very low axe rank, and he just doesn't really want to. I guess you can maybe make him a paladin, but I don't think his stats are very good if he's a paladin. No, you can't make him a paladin because he doesn't have a class set. That's yeah, that's kind of the issue too. Is that he's in. If he was in like the first class set, he could maybe be decent. He could reclass him to being a paladin, or you could just make him a Draco Knight for an axe boost. But as is, he's really mediocre. He's never really going to contribute much. He does have silver as a base. He can build the silver sword at base. Doesn't really mean a whole lot, but hey, he can do something, which is better than some of these other schlubs. Overall C tier. I think him just being a pre-promote makes him better than these guys. But I don't think he just contributes enough. He's not that bulky, and he's really not that offensively geared. He does not have that high strength. But, like, he's not terrible. He could be a lot worse. Next up, we have Pala and Ketria. Pala is really good. I think B tier, yeah, B tier above George. I was actually weighing up to put him there, but I accidentally let go of the mouse, and that just kind of fits for him. Her. She's level 8. She's a Pegasus Knight. She joins with the Dragon Pike of all things, which is a unique choice, rather than just give her like a silver or like a steel. But yeah, that's Paula. She's basically, what if you gave Sheeta a strength growth? Now, admittedly, this isn't as absurd as an FE1 and 3, where she's easily a top 10 unit, because Sheeta doesn't have strength, because Sheeta makes up for it now with the Wing Spear. So, she doesn't have a Wing Spear, but she has better overall stats. But she also joined a fuckload later, but she's still like a very strong unit, and I do believe she has a support with Minerva, which is good. Yeah, I didn't mention supports in a while, because I don't think any of the units I've been talking about for a while have one. Medea and Astrum have one, I am pretty sure, and that's like it. Not a lot of units have supports aside from the Alteans. Yeah, these two have a support which can make them both better. Pala can promote too into a Wyvern Knight, which is good because Wyvern Knights are really, really strong. So yeah, Pala is just a very, very decent slot into any team. Again, fantastic Iron Man filler because she has a good base level, good base stats. And if you want to use her, you very easily can. There are worse classes to be. Ketria, on the other hand, is actually really tough. I think C tier, I think above Cord, below Astrum. She's kind of the opposite of Astrum, where she is just about scraping by with her bases, but she literally is Ketria with strength. Like, I think almost all their growths are really similar, except for she takes a little bit away from skill and speed into strength, which she doesn't need because she's a Pegasus Knight. She's already stuffed to the gullet, full of speed and skill. So, like, she's going to be fine on that front. Her really low base level is a problem, though, because she is quite late into the game for her level. But, like, overall, she also is a C rank, so she can wield the Rider's Bane at base, which is actually quite nice. And you know what? That actually puts her above Astrum, because being able to use the Rider's Bane is that good in this game. Seriously. So, yeah, it's just about acceptable base stats. pretty decent growths, really good class to be in, and a C rank at base. Look, if this was me personally, he'd be in like his own tier of shittiness because you're giving up one of my personal favorites for him, but realistically, he's about, he's about a C tier. He's basically just, yo, you want a Rider's Bane user in a time you have, let's just see here. 1, 2, 3, and most likely 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you realistically have around 6 or 7, like, potential Rider's Bane users, and chances are you have at least one who's still alive, especially considering the fact that, oh yeah, Paolo and Ketcher joined like 2 maps ago, if of that. No, they joined a map ago. At the very end of it too, so unless you played like an absolute dipshit, they're probably still alive. That being said, Rider's Bane is just really nice to have, but there is nothing else going for Aaron. He is just solely here because of the Rider's Bane and nothing else. His stats are really poor, his growths aren't really that great, and you're giving up a unit who is arguably much better than him, who we'll get to right now. That is Samson, and I believe Samson is about here. That feels right. He does lose out on Rider's Bane access, but he makes up for it by just being a lot better at everything else, as well as arguably being better at Rider's Bane, because unless you're forging the shit out of it, Aaron is not run-rounding. Aaron is good, he's not good, and he's certainly not good enough to one-round. Whereas Samson has enough strength and enough skill, and enough strength and enough speed, to the point where, while yes, he probably won't be doing effective damage, he probably won't kill, he's able to be much more effective against much more things than Aaron, who's just kind of a Rider's Bane bot. And probably the worst one in the game at that, except for... Okay, he's worse than McKellen, but you're giving up Samson, who is a much better unit. I feel like if you didn't have to give up Samson, Aaron would probably be just at the same level as him. Like, decent, like, filler. But overall, they're both Iron Man fillers. I just feel like Samson has a lot more versatility compared to just being able to Rider's Bane things. He can also use the poleaxe, which is just a Rider's Bane poleaxe. And he joins right before you get the only ones you can get in vanilla FE11, because the secret shop. So he can quite easily equip a poleaxe, make good use out of that. Because this is one thing that FE11 actually did that was really cool, because heroes can now use axes, they actually made Samson an axe hero, instead of just a sword hero like he was originally. They replaced his silver sword with a silver axe. Bum it. Not gonna go for a third one, but that made Samson a bit better, because, you know, it actually gave him a genuinely valuable thing that a lot of other units just didn't have. Like a really high axe rank at base. Because, you may have noticed, we didn't get a last one since Daros in Chapter 2. So to get a good axe user this late at base is really appreciated. So at the very least, that gives him a genuine niche in an Iron Man setting, and just in general, if you haven't been using Bast that much, which, I mean, you should be using Bast, but it gives Samson a very unique identity. It helps give him something that can actually only be done by him, and also he can just deal with generic enemies way better than Aaron can. Because the way I look at it, being able to wield the hammer is a lot more unique than being able to wield the Rider's Bane. That's basically what this argument boils down to, is hammer versus Rider's Bane. And, like, axes versus lances, which is its whole own debate, I suppose. He's Zane, third best unit in the game. Least interesting, because he's the refresher type. He's not technically a refresher, he just kind of takes on the properties of someone else. I put Etzel into the guidance thing. That tells you how little, like, it's so uninteresting talking about these guys, because it's just, they act as a copy as your best unit, this time literally. They're like the most uninteresting characters to talk about. Like, yeah, Zane is good because he can just be a second Sheeta, or a second, like, Ballistician, or a second Bast. Whatever, he can be a second Radd if you want to. Next up we have Est, and Est is, once again, another Rider's Bane user. I think I'm going to put her above Aaron, and honestly above Samson, and above Astrum, because at the end of the day, 3 Rider's Bane is already really nice, Pegasus Knight is really nice, and her growths are really good too. Trying to train her is quite rough, but I've done it and it is quite fun. But ultimately, I feel like Esther's unit, who, while not great, is just kind of easy to slot into an army if you need to, and sometimes you can really make stuff work. during the latter half of FE of Shadow Dragon, they give you a lot of Master Seals, so it isn't hard to like promote her if you want to. And even if you don't want to, she can just Rider's Bane things for a while, and then, I don't know, maybe give the Rider's Bane to Catcher or something. Not a great unit, but being able to just Rider's Bane is just inherently so... Again, I know, I'm repeating myself, but that's Shadow Dragon. Shadow Dragon is, can you Rider's Bane, yes or no? She's passable enough, she can grow into something really, really good, but even at base, she can just Rider's Bane things enough to the point where you don't really mind it. And unlike Aaron, she has really good speed because she's a Pegasus Knight, meaning that, yeah, she can kind of fight things that aren't on that. She can kind of fight things without just using the Rider's Bane, which is, you know, very nice to have. Like I said, we have Tiki. I think the bottom of A, Tiki is just like really hard because she has a really, 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 really valuable niche. And then, like, she's kind of good against Manakes. She's only really that good for the last 2 chapters of the game. Like, trying to use her in the Kambu chapters is just not happening. But during those last 2 chapters, she puts in a lot of work, you know? She's able to just smite the hell out of the Manakes. And then with the Manakes, you can grow quite quickly, quite strong, because she has really good growth rates, and the Manakes give a lot of experience, and because she's effective against them. And I think they're, like, reverse effective against her or something. She doesn't take as much damage from Manakes as other things, I believe. So Tiki is really quite strong. Honestly, I think I'll put her above Ogma, because I feel like they kind of work in inverse of one another, and Tiki is better against, like... You're losing out on a lot more if you don't use Tiki, because the final boss is a lot harder without her. Because she's, like, one of, like, 2 things that does good damage. Lorenz, on the other hand, get your fucking Free Houses jokes out. I like Free House. I just like making fun of Free Houses fans. Any community of a game where there's like its own separate community, like Persona 5 is like the example. I like making fun of them because they always rise to it. Lorenz. Say it with me, people. He has a good base rank in Lancers, so he can use the Rider's Bane. And that being said, it's really not as useful as it was previously, because after you get him in the Kambu chapters, the Rider's Bane falls off a cliff. There are a lot less Cavaliers going around, a lot more flyers. Luckily, he has a really good bow rank, so he can potentially... I think he could wield a Parthia at base if you reclass him to a Sniper, but his stats really aren't anything that special. So, I think it takes him a little bit of time to wield the Gradivu, I believe, as well. Can he... Hang on, let me go check something real quick. This is very unprofessional, but I don't actually, I've rarely used Lorenz because he joined so late, so by that point I'm just like, screw it. I'm just gonna, like, I don't really need to use him much, but okay. I got the wiki up. Okay, he does indeed have an A rank lance at base. Therefore, he can wield the Gradivu at base, and honestly, I actually feel comfortable enough saying that bumps him up. I actually did not know that. Honestly, that puts him in B tier, I think above mouse. I did the shitty USB mouse that came up with it. Yeah, I know it's not recognized. You recognized it perfectly right earlier. There we go. Yeah, Lorenz I feel like ends up around there. Not quite amazing, but he can use Gradivu and he can use Parthia pretty easily, so like, why not? May as well reclass him if someone important has died. Like, oh man, Harden, you know, he died really late on. May as well just use Lorenz, he's got bases for it. Elise. I think that's her name, I actually can't remember. She funnily enough ends up pretty similar to Marth. Orb is really, really good. It allows a lot of shenanigans to be done on the last map with Tiki. And can also just be useful if, you know, late game, oh man, some enemy reinforcement came and one-shot Sheeta or whatever. But like, Orb isn't fantastic, it's just kind of, it can sometimes just end up as like a, man, I need one more shitter in my army. And her base stats on, like, she's an Orm bot, but Orm is just really nice to have. And she can wield Warp at base too. And another thing too, if you're in Iron Man context, I've had this happen a few times, you may as well just promote Elise. You get her right at the end of the game and you'll probably have a Master Seal or 2 in your inventory if you're Iron Manning. So yeah, screw it, slap a Master Seal on her. You're a little bit more capable. well, not, again, fantastic. I don't think she's really doing anything outside of orming. Screw it, Orm is enough valuable enough utility to the point where I feel comfortable putting her this high. I remember I put her in S, in FE3. Yeah, looking back, that's incredibly silly. I feel like in FE3, a game with one RN combat, she's still a lot higher because that's a lot more unpredictable, but like, at least I feel like this is a comfortable spot for her. Incredibly invaluable niche, but aside from that one niche, she just really doesn't do a lot. Goto, like, I don't fucking know. Goto goes here. He's a support unit for the final chapter. And that's really all I have to say about him. He's a support unit in the final chapter. He can do some swarm damage. He can do some 4-5 shenanigans. Overall, you may as well bring him to the final chapter, because you have to. And being able to support other units in that final chapter is really nice, because Shadow Dragon's endgame is one of the hardest chapters in the series in my eyes. So, hey, if you can help make that, like, 10% less awful, you're probably worthwhile in my eyes. So, honestly, I'm actually pretty happy with how this tier list turned out. I think, for the most part, everything's right. Looking over it lastly, and yeah, I'm happy with it. So, you know what? I'm just going to read it out as is. So, F tier, what's the best? Radd, McKellen, Violent. E tier, Daros, Caesar, Rashea, Mathis, Maria, Bantu. D tier, Ricard, Gordon, Navarre, Tamaz, Roger, Drorg, Dolph, Castor. C tier, Board, Julian, Cord, Aaron, Astron, Est, Katria, Reese, Elise, Marth. B tier, Linde, Samson, Lorenz, Medea, George, Goto. That's just 5 like pre-promote fillers in a row. I think that tells you a lot about how pre-promotes are in most games, to be fair. Polla, Merrick, Minerva. A tier, Ogma, Tiki, Sedgar, Boa, Kane, Bast, Hardin, Abel. S tier, Wolf, Jake, Beck, Wendell, Jagan, Zane, Lena, Sheeta. That's been me. It's actually been quite nice to get back into recording something. Hopefully I'll have a better lighting setup next time, so not just seeing my face in the darkness. But yeah, without further said, yeah, it's been great. See you guys next time. If you have any thoughts on this, let me know in the comments. It better be about how great this tier list is. See you guys next time.